Hi all, I hope you're doing well. This video is related to a project that I'm working on called Journey to Self. I'm not quite sure what the title's gonna be, but what I'd like to share predominantly, and I'm not sure where the trajectory is gonna head, is my perspective and my story or my journey so far from, inner conflict, being at war inside with myself to a place of inner peace, harmony, and wholeness, and what those words mean to me. So, before I start, I just want to light some sage, just to clear the energy of where I'm at, as well as, if you're watching this, I want to put my intention into, the intention is to clear your energy too. So thank you, Spirit of Sage. Thank you, Spirit of Fire, for your blessings. And thank you, Creator, for your blessings. So I'm going to start this story with something that I learned from a brother of mine, something that I saw a brother of mine go through. This was a close brother of mine. Someone who had my back and just spoke truth to me. He didn't hold any BS. And what was super special is he was one of a few people that got me, when we get into conversations, mostly spiritual, philosophical conversations around consciousness, Buddhism, and application, integration into daily life, right? All sorts of stuff. Easy, guys. So yeah, just a slice of many years that was really special to share friendship and a bond with this brother of mine. So the way I remember him is that, he had this strength of 5 lions in terms of his will, commitment, and determination to go after what he wants and to get it. Once he went after something, it was done. No question. And that, I always admired that. It was something that, from my perspective, it stood out a lot, So it came to a big surprise when at some point in the journey of knowing each other, he went through a really dark time where he just started believing that everything around the corner was something bad that's going to happen, or, if he had, anything, if he was working on a project, or if he was working on a work project, and looking for clients, and the momentum for, potential clients was picking up, he started really believing that the potential of those clients showing up and it turning into work was just not going to happen. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys watching this video have ever gone through that or are going through something like that, but that was the case, And I remember having conversations with him where, on the phone or in person, at that time in my life, I was, my whole focus was on, love and light, anything of the dark, or anything that presented any hint of that it wasn't of the light, or that it wasn't optimistic, or like any kind of negative feeling or whatever, I'd push aside. And to me, that was my spiritual understanding of what it meant to be spiritual at the time, right? It's like when you go on a journey of self-discovery, when you go on a journey of finding out who you are, what your higher purpose is, that's a spiritual path. And your understanding deepens as you continue that journey. That's been my experience so far, So at the time I was having this conversation with this brother of mine, and I'm like offering different ways that he could, tune into the frequency of love and change this belief, or, and I would offer up some words that I felt were of wisdom, right? At the time, to just help as much as I can, offer my perspective at the time in terms of my understanding. And I remember he'd just look at me or just say, hey, like sometimes it'd be out of anger, sometimes it'd be out of frustration, but it'd be like, hey, dude, what the fuck? Like, I'm drowning in this ocean. And instead of throwing me like a life raft, I'm on my last breath. I need to get out of the water. I can't swim. You're shouting, hey, love yourself more. Or something to that effect, right? It was just, what you're offering me, brother, is so mismatched to where I'm at, the experience I'm having, and the help that I'm asking for, right? And so this went on for a while, and it would break my heart. Excuse me. I'd want good things for him. But more than anything, I didn't understand why he was going through it. I didn't understand why it was taking him so long to get out of it, or why he was spiraling even more. I didn't grasp the impact of it, or the mechanics of it. And so some years passed. And then I went through a period of darkness. Right? And what I was having a conversation with a friend a couple of years ago, and she was talking about the dark night of the soul. So I don't know too much about it. I haven't like really read up on it too much. These days, you know, I just, for me, stillness, prayer, connection with Creator, Spirit, and asking for guidance has been kind of my way of navigating. But you know, I that's another topic or another video, I think. But as far as experiencing the darkness and conveying the experience of what it felt like for me, just, you know, my mind was not my friend, right? So just stuff that in the past might have been kind of in the background got really intense. Any kind of negative self-talk, any kind of self-hate talk just got amplified to the point where it was like, dude, you're a loser. You know, anything and everything negative that you can think about that, you know, I was saying that to myself. And it put me into like just depression that on some days it was just paralysis. Like I had to work, I had to function. And I would do that. But it was extremely challenging. And I started just experiencing this fog of just, all, you know, energy wise, low energy, and just a fog in terms of clarity, in terms of being able to communicate, in terms of having an understanding of what this energy of what I'm experiencing is about. So I just went through it and was going through it. And at the time I had some tools, but I wasn't really in a place where I understood what I was going through. In hindsight, when I look back now, you know, it got to the point where everything that I feared, everything that I didn't want, I started manifesting that into my life. Like, it turned into a self-fulfilled prophecy in terms of believing that the next thing around the corner is going to be something bad. And it put me in a fight mode where I was just in defense mode all the time, tired all the time. And even if, you know, my guards were up energetically in terms of if someone said something, said anything, or did anything that was remotely this way or that way, you know, I was very raw, right? So I think to some level that just added to the tiredness of it. And that went on for many years. And it got to the point where I truly believe in my heart that without Creator's help, without the help of Spirit, I would have continued for more time. The suffering would have continued. But sometimes the universe brings about this sudden change that just comes out of nowhere and is completely unforeseen. And there's a swift change in your life, right? And so for me, that swift change occurred about 7 years ago. And I'm not going to go into the details of it, but essentially, if I, essentially in as concise as I can be, it kind of took me from this dark place where I had isolated myself, and I was just going down this spiral of just darkness, where in that darkness there were times when there was like this light in terms of clarity, and sometimes I would feel like, wow, like hate or anger or any kind of feeling where I would shut myself down. Any kind of feeling like that, that's repressed from childhood, over time compounds and builds up and creates this giant monster in the subconscious. That requires facing, attention, integration, love, And so for me, the tools to kind of up my level in terms of working within my inner space, working with the darkness within me, working with my shadow, those tools for me came to me 7 years ago when this swift change happened, and I moved to New Mexico, and I entered into this from this dark isolating myself to entering this kind of hermit mode, semi-hermit mode, where over the course of the last 7 years, I live in a rural spot, so it's quiet. And so over the last 7 years, I've developed a practice of prayer, and it's been primarily, sunrise and sunset, and developing a relationship with myself, developing a relationship with Great Spirit, with Divine Mother, with Divine Father, my ancestors, the sacred elements, with the four directions, with my relations, to develop a relationship that has taken, 7 years to kind of turn more fluid, right? In the beginning, it was just more of like, what do I do? Well, I don't want to sit down. I don't want to wake up at sunrise, But over time, I realized and I recognized, and I started having a deeper understanding of that without that time, without that relationship, I would not be able to gain a deeper understanding of who I am and what my purpose is. I wouldn't have a deeper understanding of what harmony, what inner peace, what wholeness means, you know? And so in terms of inner peace, harmony, and wholeness, the way I see it is, you know, and again, what I'm sharing right now, I might, you know, in a week, the more you do this work, the more you've got to be open to this idea of not knowing, right? So there's an understanding that I have that feels like a foundation that I've been working with, right? And what I share now is based on that understanding. So, you know, I'm not fixed on this is what I understand and this is the way it is. Like, no, nothing like that, right? And not only that, but you know, I'm grateful to be finding my way and to be finding confidence in terms of my relationship with myself and my relationship with spirit and my relationship with Mother Earth and Great Spirit. That's built on time I've sat down and built on time that I've sat down with my darker side as well as my lighter side. So I've gotten to know my mind in both of those realms. And I've gotten to know, you know, that my heart has intelligence. And so going back to this inner peace, harmony, and wholeness, if you look at it from the standpoint of spirit, body, mind, like that's in many traditions, many spiritual walks have talked about that. I feel for me, and when I look back at my life, there's been times when I was younger, I was in my heart. I experienced the world through my heart. There was an innocence there. You know, I played with the world. I played with everyone that came into my realm that day from a place of trust and innocence and curiosity and imagination, and let's make something together, you know? And over time, as that pain, hurt, trauma started coming from the outside world, my experience is that the balance between the mind and spirit and body started getting really worked out. Like it started getting into more of a mind is more of a dominant thing. The mind is the mind was the part of me that I started identifying with. Or at least that's how I saw the world around me. Like it was very mind oriented. Just as an example, you know, in the spiritual community, there's a, you know, and I don't feel like no disrespect to anyone who's in that realm. Like I don't mean any disrespect. I'm just stating what I believe. I don't believe that's true spirituality if you're in a place that you're manifesting material stuff. If you're in a place where I want to, you know, be still inside myself in a frequency where I'm manifesting lots of money for myself. Like that's not spirituality. That comes from a place of mind, and the mind is material and matter and all of that. And I feel in some level that trinity of mind, body, spirit, where maybe at some point in our past it was in balance. Maybe the enlightened ones that were able to get to a place within themselves that they're able to understand who they are, eternal, beyond this 3D world. We're able to understand that this trinity in balance creates this wholeness, versus the mind. From the time we wake up, the mind is thinking. From the time we wake up, the mind may or may not be saying negative things about us, wherever it comes from, subconscious, our shadows, side, if we haven't done the work, wherever. What I found for me is my mind is, first off, not who I am. Second off, is not always my friend. I wanted to make this video. I think I shared in a previous video that I don't like being in front of a camera, right? So yeah, for a couple of days or a week, whatever, my mind was like, no, it's nuts, don't do it. Right? I mean, on some level, it prohibits growth. The mind prefers comfort, predictability, and control. And now, when I say mind, I'm talking conscious mind, ego, subconscious, all the shadow stuff, everything, mind. That's how I see it. You may see it differently. Awesome. I mean, that's why we're here to share. We all have different perspectives. And when we, unfortunately, I wish I could be in conversation so I could hear, all of you, I don't know how many people are going to watch this, but it'd be cool to be in conversation and get your perspective on it. But for now, it's just one way, and I'm trying to articulate as best that I can my understanding and my experience. So this idea of like inner conflict to inner peace for me was having an understanding of who I am in the mix. The inner conflict for me was being created in my mind. Unresolved stuff in the subconscious that I work and I'm working on and I'm aware of, right? So it's in the light now. And the inner child in the mix, right? Like that's where the word kukuru came from. As a kid, I was called cuckoo. Not so much because of the connotation of the word in the English terms, but it was a potato and egg dish that is kind of traditional, and it's called kuku in Iran. Yeah, so just the last 7 years being in this kind of semi-hermit mode. And when I say semi-hermit, it's really like I really removed myself from my circle of friends where conversations have pretty much stopped. I'm kind of working what I need to work on. For me, it's helpful because I'm sitting with me. There's no other energy, there's no other projection. I'm not projecting, I'm not receiving projections. It's just like, no, just sit down and work with me. So the last, 7 years, it's kind of like going to the gym when you haven't been to the gym in a while, right? In the beginning, it's kind of like, and then you realize something in you realizes like, no, this is good for me. This is what I want to do. Gives me energy. This is what I want to do. So I'm going to do it. And then you do it, and then you do it, and then you get more weight. You see the changes in your life. and then it becomes a way of life, right? So I really, and that's what's happened for me, is like where I'm sitting with right now, what I'm sharing in terms of, you know, the work that I've done and up to now, and the work that I'm going to be doing moving forward in terms of understanding who I am, and devoting time to my relations with Great Spirit, and, you know, with the community around me. That's a way of life for me in terms of how I conduct myself. And for me, the idea of wholeness now has turned into this place where, you know, where I feel for me, the connection with Great Spirit is through my heart. Like my heart is the portal to Great Spirit. My heart is the portal to intuition. And so those aspects are kind of heightened or leveled up, or when my mind is quiet and I'm not, you know, my mind is not running the show in the background. It's gotten to the place where it's gotten to the place where my mind is learning to work with my heart, and my heart is working with my mind. So it's like I need my mind to go through the day, but I don't need the constant chatter. I don't need my mind getting in the way and self-sabotaging something that I've been working on for 2 months. I don't need my mind to get in the way and start doubting ideas that I may have and say, no, don't do that, don't share that, blah, 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 right? So that's kind of my experience with it in terms of tangible, everyday, how I conduct myself within myself. And I remember a grandmother, elder friend of mine, you know, at the time, I was asking her some advice. And the advice was, the state of things around the world and what I can do, and I feel helpless sometimes. And indigenous folk have a simple way of seeing the world that is so intricate and wise. And I'm always blown away, like simple words, but to this day, 7 years later, it's still with me. And she said, Kurosh, it starts with you. It starts with you. Do the work. And do the work for you. And, everything starts here. And then, it extends out. If you have kids, if you have pets, if community around you, the town around you, but it's like little, you work on your inner peace, have an understanding of who you are, have an understanding of who you're not, work on harmony within, work on wholeness within, gain an understanding, come up with some tools for yourself in terms of understanding, what those are. Those aren't just words. Again, it's a way of life. Do the work, gain an understanding of what that is, Kurosh. And then, When you go into town, share them. Or when you're doing your work and you're creating something, share it in that work. And just be in a continuous flow. And sure, there's going to be times when challenges come up and things hit. But there's an understanding now where, you know, what that inner peace means to me, what that harmony within me means to me, what that wholeness means to me. And there's an understanding that, hey, maybe someone else out there, if that challenging thing is coming from another individual, and there could be so many different scenarios in there, so I'm not even going to entertain any, but from an overview perspective, from the hawk flying above, looking down, top level down perspective, within a few minutes or two, I'm going to tell if that person's had a good, bad day. I'm going to tell if that person's has done some work on them or not, right? In terms of, so I'm not going to get in, you know, if I can offer help, I will. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to allow the circle of peace within, you know, the inner, my inner peace is worth way more than me getting agitated or getting into something. Like one of the things that like pushes my buttons like crazy is when I'm driving, you know, and I'm blessed. I live in a town that over the last 7 years, you know, I go into town, pick up food, go into town, pick up some, you know, hardware store supplies, this and that. I've gotten to know folk. And so every time I go in, you know, everyone is just like, I've had maybe 1 or 2 semi-negative experiences over the last 7 years. Like amazing, down to earth people. So I'm driving into town one day. It's a short 10, 15 mile trip. Single lane, you know, one lane coming toward me, one lane heading into town. And there's cross streets on the left side. For, you know, folk who live on that side to be able to enter the stream and head into town. So I'm driving, the speed limit's 55. And no one's in front of me. And, you know, before I go, majority of folks where I live are, you know, elderly. Okay. All right. So I'm driving, and I'm at like 57. I like 2 or 3 miles over speed limit's good. I see a car on the other side, and I'm like, nah, there's no way. I'm getting close enough. They're not gonna turn. They're not gonna make me slow down. And sure enough, I'm getting closer, you know, and something in me, my intuition is like, nah, they're gonna turn. So I started slowing down and hitting the brakes slow. And sure enough, as I'm getting closer now, they had plenty of time to turn. Right? I'm getting closer, and now, yeah, sure enough, now they decide they want to turn. And now when they turn, now it's like we're driving, I'm driving 40 with enough distance. Like I'm not bumping. I'm not like, hey, and I'm, you know, feeling feeling my anger rise up. My buttons are getting pushed now, right? And this topic's been on my mind. I want to, in terms of what I wanted to share on the video. So in my head, part of me is like, all right, so you can't make a video about inner peace if you're gonna start getting angry. You can't be a hypocrite, That thought popped up. And then another thought popped up. And then another one. And then it was like, well, what would you do if the driver in front was your grandmother driving? What would you do then? And you were following her. And, after a minute or two, eventually it was like, my inner peace has been the result of hours and hours and hours of work. Why would I want to jeopardize that? Because usually for me, it's like I'd get, that anger has got a level. And what's the point? My inner peace has way more value than giving that value out. And all of a sudden it's like a puncture in this inner peace, and it's like all that inner peace is fucking deflating. Like, I feel grateful to be in a place within to be able to recognize that, And I feel grateful to be in a place within to be able to look at around the bend in terms of what I imagine coming toward me, and to be neutral toward that, and to be, I'm open. But at the same time, I've gone through my own bullshit, and I'm not gonna put up with anyone else's bullshit. Like, So I'm in terms of focus, mastering the mind and the idea that this ego is never gonna die, but parts of us do die, so that other parts of us are reborn again, and that's happening within us. If we're on the spiritual path, so I'm excited in terms of seeing deepening the work and extending and kind of coming out of my semi-hermit mode and extending myself out there and connecting with community that resonates with what I'm sharing, it'd be cool to be a part of a spiritual community that, or a community of folks who have worked on themselves to the point where they feel passionate about working on projects, whether it's art, whether it's music, writing, anything that's creative that involves the imagination and involves co-creating with spirit. It'd be cool to be a bridge, right? And it'd be cool to share our stories so that maybe someone else out there may be going through something and they're like, oh, that's what I'm going through, maybe. Okay, so it's saying around 44 minutes and 54 4 seconds at the time clock right now, and that's a pretty long video. If you made it this far, thanks for thanks for your time. And I pray that I pray fucking awesome things to come into your life. I pray for awesome things to come into my life. And to close this video, I just want to, share this because I felt it in my heart, and it feels true. Some vision from Crazy Horse. I see a time of 7 generations when all the colors of mankind are gathered under the sacred tree of life, and the whole earth will become one circle again. For the next 7 generations. May your journey be clear. Much love to you. Be well until next time.